All right. It is time for the After Hours Gaming League, of course, now the Corporate Esports Association match. And up here, representing Google's self-admitted weakest StarCraft team, now called ggMail, it is the one and only Maarfon. Playing Zerg in the purple. And the opponent down here, representing Peloton. Let's see if he can ride Protoss as fast as those bikes. In the bottom left, in the blue, it is OneShotKilla. And it's going to be a gas first opening, so super quick tech here for the Protoss player. And going to be going for that gateway expand on the high ground. So a real conservative move down to the low ground. Meanwhile, on the Zerg side of things, looks like a 17 hatchery opening. So I'm not too sure on the exact league of this game, but it should be a well-matched set, of course. We'll see exactly how it goes. Ice and Chrome, a big wide open map. One where I know some Protoss players struggled a bit with just how many spaces there are to come in and attack. But I actually feel like, especially with those rocks still up, you've got a narrow choke point there, narrow choke point there. Down here, I guess when you take a fourth base is where things definitely get a bit more exposed. But your initial three bases honestly does seem quite safe. Now, that was a 17 hatch. We've got the spawning pool after that, and then the gas coming down. So it's not the fastest gas. This is going to be a bit more about just getting your queens, your lings, your drones up. And with that gas being there, I would imagine it's going to be a quick third base for the Zerg player. And I feel a sneeze coming on. Woo! And I muted myself, and then the sneeze just disappeared. How standard is that? That isn't just the way it always goes. Supply block on 23. Ooh, this is rough for OneShotKilla, who has a lot of gas built up. So I wonder, are we going to just see that expansion on the low ground? Looks like we will. But with two pylons on the high ground, it's going to be a long time until any wall-off can get up on the natural. So I think OneShotKilla, you can tell, is going to very slowly kind of creep forwards economically. Meanwhile, on the Zerg side of things, two queens starting up. No Zerglings just yet, but we've got good Overlord positioning. Looks like this Overlord is going to probably move right behind the natural. Okay. Now it does turn it around, sits on top of that pillar. Nice safe spot. Seeing no wall off, I wonder if Maarfon is going to be tempted to do anything aggressive. You can see 100 gases just being hit. Isn't going straight for the link speed just yet. It's actually going to start a Spine Crawler and an Evolution Chamber and a Roach Warren. So getting that tech up incredibly early as Maarfon. And interesting to see that after spotting that the Nexus was down nice and early. I was thinking Maarfon might just hold down that drone key. Is droning at the same time though. But that's going to be an incredibly fast Roach tech coming out. So we'll see exactly what happens to that. OneShotKilla is still hanging around outside the base. I think OneShotKilla has been traumatized by early Zerglings before and is like, let's check. Let's just leave this guy here. Maarfon's like, get out of here, dude. What are you doing? Maarfon potentially could have a bit more map vision, I think, with this Overlord way out front the base and kind of getting that ring of vision set up. As it is, doesn't have too much vision of something like a Depths potentially coming out. Now, I wonder as well if Maarfon's going to try and scout into that main base. It's actually a second gate and a Twilight Council for OneShotKilla. So OneShotKilla is going to be probing up to 2 expansions. And I'm very curious to see what upgrade comes out of this. There's already one Zealot on the map. So yeah, Charge is going to come in. I think that's a good choice. Charge is such a good upgrade in that you take the cheapest Protoss unit, you turn it into the best raw, just damage and hit points for cost out of all the gateway units. Robo's going to come down behind that as well. So that's going to give a good bit of play. Already 6 Roaches on the way very early from Maarfon. So I'm not sure if Maarfon's gearing up for a big attack. Oh yeah, 7 Roaches as well. Has a lot of minerals in the bank. So definitely I think could have started a third a while ago. And this is exceptionally early to be building up that Roach count. You can see both players are kind of, I think, being incredibly safe. +1 attack for these Roaches, I think, is going to time out. So this is looking like it's like kind of like a 7 Roach poke, I guess is what we'd describe this as. Maarfon's going to go across to the Roaches, have that +1 kick in. An interesting match here. It does seem like, okay, droning the gases, the lair, droning up, and taking a third. So it's kind of like, I feel like this is almost like a way of just keeping yourself safe, right? Let's go for a Roach pressure, see some stuff with it, and macro behind it. Not a bad idea, but I do think there's a big mineral bank and a little bit of a lack of droning. There we go. 7 more drones come in. The roaches are going to come on in. Shield battery's up. They'll need to focus that battery down if they want to have any chance in this fight. But oh no, they're attack moving. And with the shield battery there, attack moving is not going to cut it, especially if the overcharge goes down. Doesn't use the overcharge, but a second battery finishes up. And that was not a good fight. 1 Zealot for 6 roaches. Oh, that was really bad for Maarfon. A good defense by OneShotKilla, who didn't even see it coming, but was perfectly set up. And Maarfon even sending another roach across, potentially to its doom. I mean, there is no fighting units out for right now for Maarfon. And I think that was a bit of a disaster. He is up 10 drones behind it, though. So the fact that kind of mechanically seems to just keep doing things, there's always a chance that OneShotKilla doesn't capitalize on this army advantage. I mean, gases are going down. Still only 3 gateways up. You can see the tech diversifying. I kind of feel if OneShotKilla just went for a prism, 5 more gateways, did a counter push. I don't know if Maarfon would be able to stop it, because Maarfon, you can see the map vision. I really kind of wish for Maarfon's sake there were some Zerglings out here, even without Ling speed, to have a bit of map vision. That being said, if he gets away with droning this third, then that would be great. Hydra Den is here. Double upgrades. This is a lot of upgrade expenditure. This is a huge amount of tech coming out for Maarfon. Oh my lord. If Maarfon gets away with this, it's going to be so set up for the next stage of this game. We've got more gateways going down, but not all at once. So what have we got? Up to a total of what looks like, bam, 7 gateways. That's pretty damn good 2-base production. But you can see the economy build-up has kind of slowed for the Protoss, whereas I feel like it's actually sped up for the Zerg, where as long as they're just chilling, now we've got Hydras on the way. Unfortunately, no Hydra upgrades started. Hydra is very bad units until they get those upgrades. The Hydra Den, of course, having 2 upgrades. You even, funnily enough, see tip-top pro gamers queue up both upgrades immediately these days, just because they know if they do forget one of the upgrades, it's a disaster. No roach speed yet either. So Maarfon, I mean, going up to these upgrades so early is nice, but I think it's been rushed. So I think Maarfon probably could tailor this build a little bit by generally laying off the evolution chamber upgrades until after 2 bases are fully saturated, and then go for like the evolution chambers while droning the 3rd base. I think that would be a good point to start the upgrades, because that is, as it is, we're going to have 2-1 upgrades kick in, which is masses of upgrades, and there's really only going to be a decent handful of Roach Hydra. So always more important to build more units earlier rather than upgrades, because you can use them to punish your opponent and you can use them to keep yourself alive. Speaking of keeping yourself alive, the economic push continuing for OneShotKilla, who really hasn't made any sort of harassment plays. Really feels like OneShotKilla just wants to kind of build up a good army, progress forwards, a very front-on game plan. Looks like a player who'd be exceptionally vulnerable to Zergling run-bys, doesn't finish a wall off, burrowed roach attacks, mutas hitting the mineral lines, even a Nida Swam in the back. These all seem like things that OneShotKilla would really struggle with. Now, unfortunately, an attack's going across, but the upgrades aren't done yet, and this is such a small army. Maarfon going in without scouting, and I don't think this is going to work out too well. That's enough Protoss units, especially with the Zealots swapping in. This Roach Hydra army, even with the 2-1 upgrades kicking in, Roach speed's not there, the Hydra upgrades aren't there, and the Protoss is going to clean that up, I believe. Ooh, those Hydras adding some nice damage in the back. The Archon and the Immortal, if they both survive, that's going to... Yeah, these 2 valuable units tank a lot. Neither goes down. Units lost has been a lot better for the Protoss in their head-to-head trades. He's going to go counterattack, but the Protoss does not have a forward warp-in point or a warp prism. So even though the army's way better right now, can the Hydras get out in time? Maarfon's ahead economically, is up on 61 drones. I think Maarfon could be smashing this game if Maarfon hadn't made those attacks. Both attacks did not go well, but that's a big ball of Hydras, and they've got Groove Spines, which I think is the more important upgrade. That's the 5 range upgrade. OneShotKilla's got to get the heck out of there. He's got to get out of dodge. He's got a High Templar there, but no Psystorm. Did get a Robo Bay behind this, but only 1 Robo. Imagine if double Robo Colossus was coming out right now. That would be huge. That would really counter the Hydralisks. But thankfully for OneShotKilla, it's just warping in High Templar. It's going to try to make a few Archons. Needs to dwarf those really quickly, though. Hydra's off creeping a little ball once again. Maarfon going for a bit of a misguided attack, I think. Oh, if he just defended on creep or waited for more units, this would be good. But those Hydras are very fragile units, and OneShotKilla is going to smash that army, only losing a few Zealots. Now, the economy is kind of evened out as well. If OneShotKilla moved these probes to the 3rd, would actually be pretty much even economically, because notice this main base as running out of minerals for both of them. So both of them are kind of capped out. I'd say Maarfon has just a slight income advantage, is going for the quicker fourth, doing a really good job of transferring the workers between the bases. But that was kind of a weird one. Just pulled drones off the third and sent them to the natural. But the third base now is undersaturated, so a bit of a weird organization of the rally points. We've got more Roach Hydra coming out. I actually think if Maarfon just spent all the money and just hit the injects, massed Roach Hydra, could probably do this, but Maarfon has not been injecting for minutes on end. Oh no, this queen is max energy, that queen is almost max, is only injecting one hatchery at a time. Oh, and this is where that change to lava inject could come in big. In Legacy of the Void, they added it so you could actually queue the queen to just do bam right now, 8 injects on that hatchery. If you ever fall behind in your injects, you do that on each hatchery. It takes a few seconds, and then they're just going to be basically a fountain of lava that pops one inject, then the next one immediately starts without you having to do anything. That pops, next one starts, and it creates this beautiful cycle because there's a lot of money there for Maarfon. And I think the thing is, there's no really good splash damage for Protoss, right? Colossus are on the way. You get a few of those out. That's going to turn things around, especially when you combine that with Archons, Zealots, and Mortals. But right now, only Archons, only a bit of short-ranged splash. I think Maarfon, with a big Roach Hydra army, could actually go take this out. If you set up a good arc, a nice concave or a firing arc, I think Maarfon would have an opportunity, but for now, Maarfon's kind of just chilling. He's actually down 10 workers, is spending a lot of drones on these buildings, but isn't really replacing them, and is starting to spend through that bank. Now, the upside of having that drone count being a bit lower means you can have a super powerful maxed army, and this is an immense amount of Hydralisks. Without Psystorm, you're going to need a lot of Colossus to clean this up. 45 Hydras, and there's only one Colossus. That second Robo is a bit slow. Yeah, I think I mean, Zealots do okay, but it's just that army supply difference, right? I think the scary thing that happens here is as there's a certain amount of DPS for the Zerg, the Protoss is going to need to pull the Zealots behind the army. Is going to need to do some really fancy control to actually make sure this pulls off. I don't know if that's going to work. It's actually really hard to kind of sync these sort of armies together. We've also got, of course, 2-2 versus only 1-1 upgrades, but +2 for the Protoss should kick in shortly. Second Robo has kicked in the main. We'll see how quick OneShotKilla starts. Excuse me, taking advantage of that. Fourth Nexus does go down. I was about to say, desperately is going to need that. You can see this main base. About 8 extra workers there. Good extra bunch on the natural. So definitely needs a new mineral line. Observer sees all this. And no Overseer, so Maarfon, unaware of that Observer, doesn't realize his army's being spotted. Now, there's 2 Colossus on the way. OneShotKilla's a bit supply blocked, is trying to warp in more Zealots. And it's all about the angling with this fight. It's all about the angling. Maarfon coming around a corner in a bit of a clump. Oh no! All those Hydras stuck behind each other. Maarfon needs to pull back and spread out. I don't think he can smash through, but actually a lot of the units do get stuck behind each other. Oh, the shield batteries are going to be big though, especially if he overcharges. OneShotKilla forgets about the overcharge. Man, the Colossus are doing big damage. I think there's still so much firepower. The Hydras come forward. This is a wild engage. If those Colossus pull back, I think they've got it, but they're a bit far forward right now. Something is being recalled. A single Stalker. Another Colossus walks in, and it looks like OneShotKilla is barely going to hang on. And you know what? I think that's a very important hold. OneShotKilla here has 3 Colossus, 2 Immortals still standing. And that was the scary moment. I think Maarfon might be screwed now. This is a really hard spot. Actually, Hive just kicked in. That is the saving grace there. Hive kicking in could make all the difference. OneShotKilla is trying to build more gateways right now. Isn't that gateway count already high? Going up to 12 gates, masses of production. That fourth Nexus has not had workers transition to it. And it actually chrono boosts it and builds some probes on that Nexus. Oh, I'm not sure OneShotKilla. Oh, no control groups. No control groups for OneShotKilla. I was about to say, oh, really needs to be just transferring workers. Is already at a high enough worker count. But OneShotKilla falling back into early game habits and actually building probes on the expansion when he's already got, I would say, too many workers. Warp Prism is going to do a bit of harassment. Now, I do like that move, but look at that. Maarfon well prepared. I think he spotted it coming with the Overlord. 3 Hydras in the main. Good job, buddy. The Overlord walkie-talkies at home and says, yep. Took that one out. +3 is on the way now for OneShotKilla. If only OneShotKilla's building probes. Oh no. And is kind of been doing it off individual Nexi as well. Oh no. That's such a shame for OneShotKilla. Oh, the Archon Zealot. This is still a good Hydra killing army. And that's only a few of the Hydras. The rest are over to the right. but deep on creep. OneShotKilla to be out on the map at this time is very dangerous. Oh no, he moves into the Hydras as well. OneShotKilla has been so focused on infrastructure, probes, batteries, cannons for defense, should not have been this far out of the map, has just got that 4th base up mining, really needs a bit more meat in front of these Colossus, but look at that Maarfon. Ooh, if he can get that Colossus. Oh, it's barely... Okay, gets it. Nice focus fire from Maarfon. Takes down an Archon as well, and I think there's just a critical amount of damage output from this Roach Hydra. Battery overcharge is remembered for the first time in this game by OneShotKilla. Zealots warping in on the front, but these Roaches have done a great job of tanking, and I don't think... Even though the Colossus appear to be focus fired on the Hydras, which is bloody well done by OneShotKilla, not quite enough there. There's a Disruptor coming over. It's going to try to gather something together, but... 2 more Colossus are coming. Big Disruptor shot. Let's see. Can OneShotKilla land one? No, he shoots it backwards. He shoots it backwards. I don't think he's used Disruptors before. That might have been an accidental unit build. Maybe pressed the wrong hotkey. He's building a mix of Colossi and Disruptors now, but OneShotKilla misfiring backwards. Oh no. Does that still have a base there? Man, if he could just get a few Archons up in front of this second Colossi as well, maybe, but nah, Maarfon's not going to give him time. Maarfon, by the way, has tunneling claws here. Oh, big Disruptor shot. Does take out a few Zealots, but a ton of Roaches go down. Oh, the Archons aren't morphing just yet. And yeah, there's just not enough firepower here for the Protoss player. Maarfon going to take this one down. Just an endless stream of Roach Hydra across the map. And yeah, you know what? Protoss army, if it was left a bit longer, I think it was going to get unstoppable. But Maarfon found the moment, was like, hey, what are you doing in my territory? Pounced on the army on creep and absolutely smashed it. A few Zealots coming down, not going to be enough. Once you get a big critical mass of Roach Hydra, the Zealots really are only useful as units that come in kind of from behind your army, because you kind of use your long-range units to initiate. Ooh, nice Disruptor shot again on the ramp. Ramps are the Disruptor's friend, man. Maarfon really needs to move up that ramp to get inside. But as I was saying, the Colossus, the Immortals, the Archons are long-range units, or Archons not so much, but the Colossus and the Immortals, you kind of want to start the engage with them. And when the Roach Hydra try to jump on them, that's when you really want your Zealot Archon to come in. But OneShotKilla here never really had that critical amount of Colossus with enough Zealots and Archons kind of protecting them. And the Roach Hydra, 2-2, an endless wave. And Peloton goes down. Google stands triumphant. Let's take a look at some of the stats in that game. We can see 94 Hydras went down, 86 Zealots though, 60 Roaches, 13 Archons, 8 Colossus. I'll tell you what, you put those Archons, those Colossus together in one army, I don't think any amount of Roach Hydra beats it. I don't think so, but taking it in those medium-sized fights, whenever those expensive units, especially the Colossus, were caught out on their own, that was really well done. And you can see actually, obviously the units lost by the end looks great for the Zerg player, but I think was the first few fights definitely looked really good for the Protoss. I guess my final tips here for both players would be OneShotKilla to put all the Nexi on the same control group so that they can easily move those rally points around, and maybe to have maybe to do some harassment. I think honestly maybe just get the army together against someone who's a low tier Zerg, really focus on getting the meat together and growing the Colossus count. Maybe an earlier second Robo. For Maarfon, on the other hand, I think this game actually would have been dominant. Like, this was a good game and it was a solid win, but I think it would have been dominant if those first 7 Roaches didn't arrive over here at the start of the game and kind of throw their lives away for a single Zealot. That was a really rough one, right? I think that was just before this moment. Let's go back a little bit, yeah. About this very early Roach attack, if they were kind of just kept for defense, right? If like maybe the Overlord poked in, or they poked in and said, hey, there's shield batteries, there's a bunch of units, and backed off, that might have been good. And there was also another Roach Hydra attack on the 3rd base a little bit later. I think that was about 8 minutes, right? Maybe when that first one came in. And that was also an attack which felt a bit disjointed. So it felt like Maarfon and OneShotKilla perhaps both overextending into their opponent's side of the map at the wrong times. Luckily for Maarfon, it was always only a handful of units, and what was really impressive, what allowed him to take these hits, was that he was always droning hard and finishing his macro, adding great upgrades behind these attacks. It's just like cherry on top of the cake if you don't do these attacks, right? You go, oh no, there's plenty of units, pull back, wait for more stuff. OneShotKilla, on the other hand, had that one big overextension, which was, of course, the game decider, because it was at that point where there was so much Roach Hydra And that Zerg army reproduces quickly. The Protoss army does not. Of course, Colossi, Archons, Immortals, those units take a while to build up, and as they grow in numbers, they grow in power, while the Zerg units do better in small, medium numbers, and any time where they're allowed to get surface area, if they can get in on top of those units, they're going to be good. Whereas the advantage of things like Colossus and Immortals is often pulling back through choke points, pulling behind your buildings, and let the opponent funnel through into you. Zerg kind of wants those big wide open areas on the other hand. So anytime here, it's like, hey, all my Hydras are shooting at once. You see the Protoss has to go, turn, tail, and run. GG well played though. The ggMail team take that one out, and that is a good game. GG's.